is there kind of a spirituality and or on the flip side, have you received any pushback from like mainstream science into what you're doing? And where does that fall? And what are the applications of the cymoscope in all of these realms for healing and all of that?
Pushback, no, actually quite the opposite. And I should also point out, by the way, that this term music medicine is now a new clinical term. So this is another indicator of the way that medicine is moving. Now, so how do we differentiate, for example, music medicine from music therapy? You probably have heard the term music therapy because music therapy actually is mainstream. It's been around since what, the 1950s, I would say, and it's still on the rise now. And so basically a music therapist's job is to assist a patient in either the pre or post-operative stages of their hospitalization, to help them relax, to help, because it's very well known that when the body enters into a parasympathetic state, that healing can occur much faster and more naturally. And, so the whole idea of music is to cause the person, the patient, to move into this, what's termed a parasympathetic nervous state, which is essentially a relaxed state, right? When you relax, things can happen naturally in your body. When you're all tensed up, there are all sorts of chemicals flowing in your bloodstream that will actually prevent your healing. Like cortisol, for example, will flush throughout your bloodstream if you're in a kind of nervous state. Whereas the music therapist will help you to relax, and choosing beautiful music has other benefits that we could talk about. But what's happened now in mainstream is this recognition that the music itself has biological benefits for the patient, regardless of the intervention of a therapist, right? So the therapist aspect is really a bit like a psychologist in a way. It's a talk therapy. They're talking literally on a one-on-one with the patient. But now mainstream has recognized that it's still a very important role, and it will never go away, that, but they've also recognized now that the music itself has therapeutic benefits even without the therapist. And this is very good news. Obviously, for one reason is that there would never ever be enough therapists to go around, right? There are millions of people in hospitals all over the world right now, in hospital beds, but there's a kind of relative handful of music therapists to go around. So this is very, very, very good news. So getting back to what I've just been saying there, this new medical textbook is now available. It's a textbook of alternative therapies. That doesn't mean any woo-woo. These are all tried and tested therapies. And in my case, the chapter that I wrote was focused entirely on sound and music. So sound therapy. Some people call that sound healing. I don't like the term sound healing. It's probably we're stuck with it. It's like one of those many words that we end up being stuck with, like sound wave. We'll
Right.
never overcome that. But sound healing, sound therapy, it means the same thing. It's basically the use of sound to catalyze healing in the body. And those sounds can come from very wide variety of instruments. They can come from Tibetan bowls, crystal bowls, didgeridoo, many different types of traditional and new style instruments, but can also come from single frequencies that are now being emitted from specific therapeutic instruments that have been designed, for therapeutic use. And also, of course, from music. Music has a very wide frequency array, bandwidth. So all of these different ways. And so this whole chapter, this whole medical textbook is focused on these alternative therapies. And all I've had actually so far from clinicians all over the world is a great deal of support. Having said that, it's not going to be a quick fix change. Medical science in particular is very slow to change. I learned recently from a colleague that there's actually a 17-year gap between discovery and actual practice, the discovery of a new medical fact that's going to help potentially millions of people, and that new fact become part of some new therapy, some new intervention clinically. 17 years. Can you believe it? So it's a very slow process. And maybe it's right to be slow. But anyway, it is happening. That snowball will continue to gather. When it comes to, you mentioned the cymoscope instrument, it's been helpful in so many ways.